everybody, it's Rose from Rebel Leader Academy here with another lesson and update for you. So today I want to talk about our instincts, which is a pretty interesting topic in that we usually grow up with this idea that we should trust our instincts, right? That our instincts are usually right to lead us in the right direction. And that was an idea that I struggled with a lot because as I went through my training in psychology and sociology as an undergrad, one of the things that I started to notice is that when people trust their instincts, a lot of the time those instincts lead us to very atrocious things like war and hatred and violence. And that is definitely part of us. So I really thought about that and I said, well, where do these instincts come from, right? What's at the heart of all of this? And I introduced you last night to the theory of limitless evolution, which at its base has this idea that we have evolved in circumstances of scarcity, right? So as a species, we have always had to fight for our food and water and energy and heat and everything else that we've actually needed to survive. So if you can imagine, in those circumstances of scarcity, we have obviously evolved to protect our resources. So we have evolved to definitely say, this is mine and I have enough for me and the people that I care about, basically the people that my empathy will reach out towards. So some of us, depending on how we've grown up, some of us are just out for ourselves, right? And that's the smallest level, if you will, of that scarcity instinct. Whereas others, like it might extend to just your family. You know, as long as your family has enough, that's okay. You feel good and kind of fuck the world. Some of us, it's our community. Some of us, it extends to our country, let's say. And for some of us, it extends to the whole world. So at the moment, that's kind of as big as we can get. I mean, yeah, you can say, well, if there's any other life in the universe, my empathy will extend to them as well. But if you think of it as concentric rings, right, that's where your instinct for what you are willing to protect and die for and kill for lies. So we have these instincts, and what do those look like? Well, if we're protecting our resources and we're trying to survive as well as we can, what does that look like? Well, it looks like fear, right? Fear leads us to do things to protect what we have and to protect our loved ones. So if we look at it from that perspective, we have all of these mechanisms in us on a very deep level. In our mind, we have actually different parts of our brain that are designed just for this, and that are triggered, like our amygdala and our limbic system. That's meant to make sure that we take care of those people to which our empathy extends. So why is this a problem? Well, in the past, it hasn't been so much of a problem as it's been a utilitarian tool in that, you know, our wars, let's take it to the level of country, right? Our wars are there to protect those within our country and the resources of our country from other. So we have this idea and this distinction of us and them. And past, because we have been disconnected as a species, that has been kind of okay in the sense that it worked. It made sense. We were very able to justify, hey, we are going to do our best to protect these people here and not the others. The others can all die or whatever the case may be. However, with that base of technology moving us towards connection, this becomes a huge problem. So think of it with the birth of the internet, right? All of a sudden, as we progressed with the internet, we now have capabilities like this to reach out to literally everyone who has an internet connection. And in the next 5 or so years, it's projected that almost everyone on the planet will have access to the internet. That's huge. That means that I can now communicate with everyone, everywhere, kind of at any time that I want. And this is problematic in the sense of we can now more readily extend the borders of our empathy to everyone that we can connect with. So in many ways, it doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, or however you identify. It doesn't matter any of those things. Any of those boundaries that we have given to ourselves that says this is us and that's them. Those are all being melted away with our ability to communicate at this personalized level to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And that's just going to continue trending forward. So if you think about it from that perspective, where do these instincts of ours now lie? These protectionist, fear-based instincts. There's kind of no place for them. And even scarier to me, and this is why this work is so important and getting this message out there is so important, is that we have emerging technologies right now that are incredible. And of course, with any technology, you have, number one, the positive things that we can do with it, right? The amazing things that we can do. You have nuclear energy, or you can create a nuclear bomb. How are we going to choose? How are we going to navigate these things that are coming up for us? So in all of these different fields of emerging technologies, whether it's 3D printing or VR, virtual reality, or, vertical farming and things like that, any of these, AI, that's a huge one, right? How are we going to use these technologies? That question really comes down to how are we going to utilize our instincts? Because if we take these very powerful emerging technologies and we pair them with our old instincts that were based out of scarcity and fear and the need to separate and protect, if we do that and we continue that trend with the technologies that are coming online, we could very easily tip the scales into complete annihilation. Meaning we could take these technologies and for sure, very easily at our fingertips, destroy everything that is. Destroy ourselves, the planet, any kind of sustainability, any kind of life. This is a real emerging problem that we need to solve and face. And even though we're trying to mitigate these problems to a certain extent, what people aren't looking at is the level of our own DNA, our own genetic instincts, right? Our own triggered responses and why those are no longer the best that we could use to address these problems, right? Now, if you look at our prefrontal cortex, if you look at the newest part of our brain that's developed, right? This is the part of our brain that's really about strategy, that's about long-term thinking and consequential thinking, meaning if I do this, all of these dominoes will happen, all of these different effects will happen. And the real problem is that when we move into, or we are triggered into some kind of scarcity, right? Our brain goes through these processes that shut down the actual newer part of our brain. So we're finding that when we do neuroscans, for example, we're finding that we lose the ability to future plan. That's crazy. That it's not crazy in the sense that evolutionarily speaking, it made sense for us to do that. But now it's crazy because if we don't have this long-term consequential thinking, then all of these technologies will be used incorrectly in the sense that they will be used out of fear and they will be used to destroy and they will be used to try to protect the few instead of the whole. So transitioning from that into what I call an abundance-based mindset, right? An abundance-based thinking and behaviors. That's really moving into the newest part of our brain that, as far as we know, is really still in its infancy in terms of its evolution. So if you think of that newest part of our brain, as it is evolving, so are our technologies. We are having the brilliance to create these new technologies. We are having the ability to future plan better and through the use of things like AI, actually predict better. So if we can move into these newer instincts, which are all about cooperation, compassion, love, these, and I say these things with a lot of depth to them. We have a lot of teachings, kind of in the personal development world, things like that are around these concepts of love and compassion and gratitude. And we think of them as like, oh, well, on a personal level, that's great. We can move into these aspects of ourselves and have a better individual life, which is absolutely true. But I want to give you guys the bigger scope of why moving into these aspects of ourselves, our compassion, our cooperation, is not only like, oh, that's a nice thing for us to do on a personal level for our own fulfillment and our own happiness, but it's essential for us to do as we bring online these new technologies. Because if we take the technologies and pair it with our old scarcity-based instincts, we will annihilate ourselves. Like, that's pretty inevitable if we continue on that path. However, if we can consciously make the decision and understand that we have these triggers and that we can take that breath, take that step, and move out of those triggers into our higher functions, then we have the ability to take these unbelievably powerful, wonderful emerging technologies, pair that with the best of ourselves, meaning our compassion, our love, our ability to consequentially think into the future and plan. Then we actually, for the first time, have a realistic shot at creating a world that is abundant and sustainable for everybody. And that is, for the first time, possible for humanity. Like, we've had these utopian visions in the past, and people have called them crazy. You know, peace and love and harmony and all of these kind of hippie-ish ideas. And why were they sort of hippie-ish ideas? Well, because we didn't actually have the processes, the technologies, the availability to create the circumstances of physical abundance, meaning we take these technologies and we create enough food, water, shelter, energy, all of these things for everyone in a way that is sustainable. And now we do. Do you know how exciting that is? Do you know that we are standing on the precipice, literally, of greatness with our species? But the key and the part that's going to be the most difficult and the most challenging for us is to step out of our old scarcity-based instincts that we have been operating in since the dawn of time, right? To step out of those and actually move into completely uncharted territory. So we know as a species how to survive. Like, we got that. We have done it. Our instincts are great for that. But what we have never had to do is actually live together in a world where things are abundant for our survival. That shift in paradigm changes everything. It changes how we have to operate as ourselves in our individual lives. It changes how we have to operate as a society, as a global society especially. And it changes how we have to teach. It changes the dialogue. And that is as exciting as it is terrifying. So when I talk about Rebel Leader Academy, and I say, I am looking for the innovators to work with, the disruptors, the people that understand that technology is literally changing the landscape of everything. That's why this academy to me is so important. Because it's literally life or death, as I see it, for our planet. It is either I find those leaders to work with, and it can be on a personal level, by the way. This is not to say that on an individual level, when you make that shift, when you make that transition from scarcity-based instincts to abundance-based instincts, that doesn't make a difference. In fact, it makes all the difference. So I am looking to work with people, one, who want to integrate that in their personal life, in their communities, in their society, and then all the way to their country, and then to help me transition global systems into this new abundance-based mindset. So it's a huge vision. And the core of it is that we have to transition our instincts and our relationship to how we handle our instinctual triggers that are fear-based and scarcity-based and protectionistic. That's why I'm here. And that's what this academy is all about, really, on the biggest picture level. And that's why I am so excited to find you, because you raised your hand and you said, yeah, I already have that rebellious nature. I'm already looking for things that are fucked up and I want to change it. I want to have mastery over my own life, and I want to go out there, whether it's leading by example, if you are a maverick, or it is leading through activism, any of those sub-archetypes of rebel that I've already told you about, this is where this comes in and becomes incredibly important. So I hope you guys continue on this journey with me. I have a lot of more information to give you. And today, if you are following along with the videos, today's letter is D, as in dog. All right, great. So think about your instincts. Think about when you're being triggered into fear or scarcity, or you feel the need to protect you and yours. And then think about what's the opposite of that. So if you didn't have to protect so hard and everybody had literally what they needed to survive, you, your family, the country, the world, what kind of a mindset would you have at that point? How different would you feel? What ambitions would you have? So I want to leave you with that. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.